Hello there. So I decided to do a video product where I interview various individuals, many of whom I'm familiar with, and their use of technology in social games such as VRChat, and how it's affected their lives, especially in the area of socialization and self-expression compared to the physical world. I also cover topics of how people may have used VR to cope during the time of the pandemic. So I'll be releasing these videos individually, and if you're interested or curious in the topic of VR or a longtime VR user and have experience with social games such as VRChat, I hope you'll find the different answers people provide to be valuable. So I'll be interviewing Bassclefff today. Thank you for stopping by, I appreciate it, and taking your time out to do this interview. So I'll be asking some questions, so feel free to answer them in a way that makes you comfortable. Keep in mind I'll be publishing this in the video that's public, and it will be edited though if I need to make edits, so don't worry about answering anything perfect or if you make mistakes or if you need to take a break or anything like that, because it'll just be edited together.
Gotcha.
If necessary. So if you're ready, we will begin.
Sure.
Okay, so I usually start this interview with kind of like an introductory thing, and I think out of a lot of the people that I've interviewed, like you and Mono, I've probably known a lot longer than anyone else, and I think just through, I don't remember when I first met you, but I know a lot of the people that I've done the interviews with are in the Vincest community, but I don't always remember, like, exact circumstances of when I first met or interacted with you. I don't know if you remember, but I know there's been different meetups and like maybe projects or spaces that we were existing in at the same time where we eventually like interacted with each other.
I think I actually knew of you before I met you, because I remember that you did the Worlds thing.
Oh yeah,
for Vinny.
The different like mods and stuff.
So I remember watching that. Like I remember that being streamed live. That must have been a while ago now. But then I think we might have met on Discord. I don't remember if we met on the charity first or if it was like 2020 charity.
I think it might have been around that time.
Started.
Yeah, because I forget that you were in the same project, weren't you?
I was in Vine Sauce's Hope 2020 and 2021, and I managed to catch the last two before they ended. So
yeah.
But I think that we might have met before then, maybe on Discord, I think.
It's possible.
Because I know that, yeah, because Vinecord had, I don't know if you ever joined the Vinecord VC. I don't remember.
Not VC, but I was temporarily in the Discord. I was in there for a brief period, yeah. And I know you were there as well, like modding. I think you were modding back then as well.
Yes, I was.
I think you were actually. I think you joined because I think I started doing like VRC Meetup stuff with a larger part of the community even before the charity stuff. So I could have swore you and maybe some of your friends did join.
Might have been there.
Yeah, I think you did join on those occasionally. Don't quite remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we didn't meet in VRChat, but I do know that we started hanging out more in VRChat.
Yeah.
So.
It was a good opportunity for a bunch of people to kind of like come together and get more acquainted that way.
Definitely.
I wanted to ask, did you use VRChat and desktop first or headset later? Like, did you get the headset later and
Nope.
then, or purely VR?
So what happened is that, I don't know, like my brother had a friend that wanted to get rid of their VR set. Because that was the Vive, I think it was. That was like the first like big. No, not Vive. Is it Vive? I'm trying to remember the very
Vive was
like one of the first
Vive
VR.
Was the big ones.
Yes, the Vive, or the base station 1.0s come from. So his friend had one of those headsets, and gave it to him. I think he paid like $100 or $200 to take it off of his hands, basically.
Oh wow!
And so we had two base stations at first, and then one of them broke, and so we only had one. And like the weird Vive controllers, which suck, they're really bad.
I've heard, yeah.
Instead of having the analog sticks, it's like the little trackpad thing on both of them. Not good. Yeah, I think, and then And I think that VRChat was like one of the stuff that we downloaded just because it was free. But shortly afterwards, I actually got the controllers. Just the Steam controllers. The index controllers. And then I basically played Half-Life Alyx and all the VR stuff with just the Vive headset, the Vive base stations, and the index controllers. And then later on, I think I actually bought the headset outright, just the headset by itself, because I'd already had the controllers. So I didn't even buy the full index kit. I bought the controllers first, then the headset, and replaced the Vive headset with the index headset. And I'm still using 1.0 base stations because one of them broke, and then I just bought one more because I didn't feel like getting the 2.0 at that time because they were very expensive.
Hey, as long as it still works for you.
Yeah, the 1.0 base. I mean, it works.
So what would you say, what was your first experience using VRChat then? And you said you first experienced it with a VR headset, which is different from like other people. It seems to be half and half because there are people who only start in desktop. I started out in desktop, and then other people actually start out in a VR headset. So what was your first experience with VRChat?
I think I literally just joined random worlds. I don't even remember if I talked to anybody. I think I might have been with Stamos at the time because he got a VR headset, and then I think that's what prompted me into playing VRChat, and then we just like goofed around, and just joining random worlds and just getting random avatars and stuff like that. So that must have been a while ago now, but yeah, I can't remember exact dates, but I do remember that whenever I first tried out VRChat, I had a VR headset. So I think I've only played VRChat in desktop mode like 3 or 4 times, like total. So yeah, VRChat is mainly a VR experience.
That's interesting. So I guess I mean, it seems like you start out things in a VR headset. So that answers my other question on, was there anything that encouraged you to finally get a VR headset? But it seems like were there any specific reasons that you got the headset? Like, obviously, some people get the headset because they experience VRChat first, or at the other things first in desktop. But you had a VR headset already. But what exactly, like, what circumstance? I think you kind of mentioned it, but what encouraged you to get into VR finally?
Probably Half-Life Alyx, because I already had, at that point in time, we had the Vive from my brother, and then he would let me basically use it because he didn't really find a use for it much anymore. And so I would just play it like every now and then started collecting dust. And then Half-Life Alyx was announced. And so I was like, okay, well, I think I actually need the controllers to play Half-Life Alyx because I don't want to play that game with the weird Vive controllers that were broken at that point in time. So I went ahead and basically started with Half-Life Alyx, and then I think I played like Boneworks. I was just like playing a bunch of VR games.
There are some pretty cool ones.
And then like there was like Pavlov. I really liked all the games that had like shooting in it. I found really fun.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like what really encouraged me to get a VR headset was literally because my brother had one, and then other games was coming out like Alyx. And I just thought I might as well just buy my own stuff. So.
Well, it seems like you already answered what equipment you're using, pretty much. And I usually ask people a specific question about their first experience in virtual reality, because, like, when it comes to describing virtual reality, like, if you're somebody who already has a headset, and you're trying to describe what that experience is like to someone who's never had a headset before, sometimes it's kind of hard to really, like, get them to like realize what it's actually like. So what was like your first experience with virtual reality? Like, what was your impression of being in that like different space or experiencing it for the first time?
So for me, I think that whenever I first put the headset on, it was like the Vive has less resolution than the Index, so it was kind of blurry. But it was very interesting. It's kind of like, I kind of want to say it's similar to operating like a remote vehicle, pretty much. Except you can look around and see out of it, basically. Because like whenever
you're in a mech body, it's like being in a mech, huh? But except you're in a body.
That's actually that's basically kind of what it is. It's kind of like you're operating a mech with your body, and you're just seeing out of it, basically. I think that's the best explanation, even for now, because like I don't really get motion sickness from like moving around and stuff. Where was I? I was like right here. So. And I always just thought of it as like, okay, I'm basically just controlling a remote vehicle with my analog controller, and it just makes me move around. So it doesn't really make me sick. Because that's just kind of how I think of it.
That is like, you know what? That's the first time I've ever heard someone like describe it that way. So many different ways that people describe it, like, oh, it's going from 3D to 4D, or it's like a lucid. It's kind of like being in a dream or going into a gateway to a different world. And you describe. I feel like that's a realistic description of it too, like describing it as piloting something as well. It's pretty interesting. So I'm going to ask a question about like VR, like socialization. Well, first about socializing in the physical space, but when it comes to socialization in like, you know, what we call meat space, meat space, how would you describe how you're like when it comes to interacting with other people, and how does that translate to the internet, where you're using text and voice to interact with people? How would you describe how you are in those spaces when it comes to interacting with people outside of VR?
It's a pretty big question. I'd say that I think that I act pretty normally online and offline. I think text is different though. I feel like text is always going to be different, because the way that you type isn't necessarily the way that you speak.
Yeah.
Because you have more time to type things out and what you want to say. Whenever you're just talking to someone, you kind of just have to just go with it.
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to say that whenever I was first playing VRChat, I'd feel like how I interact with people in the real world and how I interact with people in VRChat very similar. I basically just carry over what I already knew. So,
yes,
that's pretty much it.
That's interesting.
In VC, it's also different too, because you can't see people's body language.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times I've realized that people didn't even know that I was like being sarcastic or like I was joking or something like that, because usually you'd be able to tell because of just how, you know, your body language is. But on VC, you really have to enunciate.
That can happen with text too, because text can get misinterpreted, and so not everyone's going to know you're being sarcastic or joking or anything. So it can get misinterpreted as well, because you don't have those tells.
Yep.
In physical reality, or you know, VR kind of brings that back a bit too. So would you say that upon your use of VR, would you say it's like changed the way? I mean, you're among the few that I've seen that says you're pretty much the same. But if you want to add anything to this, would you say it's like changed or influenced the way you interact with others compared to like the real meat space? Has it like influenced you at all?
I mean, I definitely feel more comfortable talking with people in VRChat, because I mean, VRChat, you pretty much go there to talk to people.
Yes.
You know, it's not like walking into a store and then you just walk up to people and just start talking. Like you don't do that.
You can't do that. You could,
so
but
in VRChat, yeah, you could, but people might think you're really weird, and you would be. But yeah, in VRChat, it's a lot easier to approach people, because like whenever you're playing, people, I feel like, want to be approached. Usually, you know, or at least want to hang out and talk to people. I like to go in groups. Usually I have like a group of friends or whatever. I don't usually like to go into public worlds by myself, just because. But I'll go with like a friend or two, and then we'll just talk to people. Sometimes I rarely do that anymore, because a lot of my closer friends that aren't in like the VRChat group don't really do that much anymore. So the only times I really get to do that kind of socialization in VRChat is basically with whenever you're doing your group stuff. So
Yeah, it seems to bring a lot of people together when they have the time to join, and I do appreciate that if it helps out. I don't know if this question is going to apply to you, because like I guess this would be more for people who like use VR for like a little more consistently, but maybe you'd be able to answer this. But in regards to like observing other people that you've interacted with in the VR space for a while, have you noticed like any changes in other people that you've interacted with over time as they've used VR? Have you noticed like it changed their behavior, the way they interact with others?
I think so. I think that I've definitely seen people that were very silent and like wouldn't really talk at all, and then over time they would get a lot more comfortable with just talking to other people. I think that's one of the biggest changes, but other than that, I don't really think of anything else.
Okay. And also, I don't know if this one, you can also answer this one however you want, or, provide input. This is more based on like identity or self-expression in the VR space, but in regards to like identity or the sense of self or self-expression, do you feel like time in VR social spaces such as VRChat have influenced or changed things about you or allowed you to explore yourself in a way that is different from like the physical space?
I wouldn't say exactly. I've always been pretty okay with myself. I guess that's the best way I can describe that. But it's been cool being like, especially like I think it's cool to have like a robot avatar, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's one of your other questions about my avatar, but like I like the robot avatar because like there's not a whole lot of like facial expressions with it. Like there's no person tied to it.
Yeah.
So it feels like I can more so bring out my own characteristics into VR because you don't have another character to base it off of.
Yeah. Or like, physical body.
Like, yeah. So I think it's a lot easier to like use like a robot or whatever. That's kind of off topic, but
it's you know what, it relates to it. That's because it's a way to like because people will utilize like that ability to use whatever body you want or be able to like create stuff, have the freedom to create things and use them in the VR space can help people like they utilize it to like help them express themselves, or it might make them more comfortable interacting with others by wearing like exploring different bodies or being like a robot or being whatever you want to be. Pretty much, it's kind of like fun to do that or use that.
It's strange because I've never I'm always more comfortable just being the robot guy in terms of like my avatar, because other characters, I don't know, it's kind of weird for me to just be another character that already exists, just because it's like it's not really me, so, and also like I mean, I guess it's different because VRChat, even though they do have like games in VRChat or like worlds where you become the character and then you play the game or whatever, in that world, VRChat is more of a social place. Yeah. And I've always I've just realized like even for like all my accounts and everything that I usually just use something that isn't an identifiable character, like something that comes from something else. Because that my profile picture is just the Bassclefff. It's just a symbol versus it being a character or like another piece of media or something like that.
It might be because your form of expression is different though, because you obviously you do music, and that might be your the outlet where that's all going into, perhaps like where your expression is going to that, instead of just something like putting it into like something cosmetic. In a social
or
space.
Just like, because I know that a lot of people will use like characters as their profile pictures or like as their avatar or whatever, but I kind of like to just be something more of a blank slate, just so that I can express myself, I guess, more earnestly, so that there's no attachments to it, where it's like you don't really know who I am until I actually start talking.
Yeah. That's completely understandable. I don't know if it's a topic I've gone over before, but like because there's a lot of people that I've only got acquainted with within the online space and not really knowing what they look like. Then I'm getting more acquainted with like that person that's inside that's not really attached to a body. Like, yes, they do have bodies, but the person that I get attached to, or the person that I come to know, is just like an entity, like a combination
within that,
of things that they're into. Like that person, it's formless. It like it's a bunch of things that come together.
That's kind of how I feel too.
So it's unattached. It's like learning how to know people or get acquainted with people without a forming attached. It's very surreal, like compared to like, you know, before the internet or before a VR space where, you know, you would interact with people and get to know them physically first before learning like what they are inside or who they are inside. Like that can take a while.
That's really, you know, I never really thought about that before, but yeah, it's like whenever you meet people online and you talk for them for so long, like without ever seeing them in person, it's kind of like this, you have like basically the character of themselves as them in your brain versus like what they actually look like.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's why it's kind of a weird thing to see people in real life.
Yeah, it can be.
But so I know whenever we first met in real life, I feel like you kind of matched what I was expecting, but I've also seen pictures of you before, so it might have...
I don't hide it.
...overwritten.
Yeah, I don't hide it. And yeah, I say, like, I do post pictures of myself, but then I'll go and say, like, oh, well, even if I see people in real life that I've only met online, I don't really, like, you know, it's not going to change what I think of people, or I don't always, I still detach it. Like with the like, you know, we met at TMG2 and I saw a bunch of people physically that I never, like I've known online for a long time. I got to meet them physically, which is nice. It's nice to see who they are physically too, but then like when I leave that space and I go back to the way things are, I'm like, and then I get on VRChat, I'm like, well, I like this person. Like I saw you physically, but I still like you like this. Like I like your non-physical.
I understand that.
Yeah, this is what I'm used to. I'm not, you know, no problem with the meat thing. That's why I have no issue with that. But like I'm used to you being like this. That's what that's what I know. So, but yeah,
it takes a little bit to get used to, because sometimes some people will actually act a little bit different whenever you meet them in person.
Yeah.
Versus whenever you talk to them online. So especially whenever people are a little bit more, I don't want to say intimate, but they're more like physical with their signs of friendship.
I had to learn, but yes,
like
I had to learn that. Oh yes, this person likes to hug, or this person likes to. So I'm like, oh okay, I didn't expect that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but it's interesting to learn.
But sometimes people will take things a little bit like. I don't want to say too far, but like to the point where it's like, all right, you can slow down.
Yeah, I guess that's the only issue with like the physical space is like, at least in VR, it's a bit safer to interact with people because you don't have that physical element. So like you don't have to worry about like a physical meat body that might touch you or get too close.
Just walk straight up to someone and then do this in their face, you know.
Yeah, and it's not too much of a problem
because it's only like a little bit annoying, you know, just because they just have the physical aspect of it or the visual aspect of it. But in real life, whenever you go up to someone and you do that, way more annoying. It's like it's like I've never done that to someone, just to point that out, but
but yeah, it's totally understandable. So I want to ask the next one. It's sort of related to like how VR can be used to help like with different issues. But what's your opinion on VR being used as like a form of mental health therapy or for therapeutic purposes? What would be your opinion on that?
I mean, I could definitely see it being used that way. Not just with like socializing, but like with a ton of other stuff. Like you could probably help people overcome like phobias and things like that using VR.
Oh yeah.
Because then, like, I mean, at least like the basic ones, you know, maybe like fear of heights, sort of thing. stuff like that. But yeah, I can definitely see VRChat being used for mental health.
Yeah, there's definitely, I brought this up, but there is, it's kind of of course it's going to be slow, and the barrier to access, headsets and everything, it still can be pricey. It's not as easy for everyone. There's, like, development in the areas of using, therapists using, like, VR headsets for, like, PTSD, for example, or helping people with disabilities. It's something that's gradually occurring, but, hopefully it's something that'll be more accessible to people in the future. But, different people can use it for, like, meditative purposes, or just kind of like, it's a good tool to escape for a bit, too. If you just need to get out of your environment for a bit and, like, connect with people, it can definitely be helpful that way as well.
Yeah, I can even see it like with AR as well. Like people who maybe don't have like a lot of movement, like their disability involves them not being able to move around as much. Having like AR so that you don't have to reach for things or just have everything in like your peripheral view, or like I feel like that can be really helpful, but it's unfortunate that a lot of this kind of stuff is super expensive. Like the Apple Vision or whatever is like $3,000. That's insane. Like people thought the Index was insane for being $1,000, but that came with a bunch of stuff. And then the Apple Vision, it's like $3,000 just for a thing that you put on your head. You can barely play games with it. A little arm.
Yeah, it's just it'll be a while. I think it is a. I think it's a good tool, but it's going to take some time. But I hope they get there eventually. So it seems like you've enjoyed your use of VR so far. So my final thing, closing out, if you could recommend use of VR to others in ways that aren't all like associated with gaming specifically, what reasons would you give to like maybe get a headset or gonna try VR out?
Not associated with gaming.
Not necessarily associated with gaming. I
don't know, because gaming is like the whole reason why I did.
I guess Well, maybe like you use VRChat for social. You can go into VRChat for socializing, but
that's true.
Yeah.
I think like stuff like VRChat and socializing with people in VR and being able to see hand movements and facial movements, like I can cock my head a little bit like this, is really, really cool. Being able to do that, but. Other than that, it's really expensive just to talk to other people online.
So most of it, that's totally fine, because I know some people, everyone's use of it is different, because there are people who will use like it purely. I guess there are people who don't who will get VR headsets and they're not into gaming, but they'll they'll use it for like exercise or socialization, or there's different like applications where you can create art or like make music and stuff like that. So I guess there's a lot of different applications for it.
I actually got me and my brother pitched in for my mom's birthday and got her a Quest 2.
Oh.
I think a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And so she likes to play Beat Saber. She does that as like her exercise, basically, for cardio. So I feel like it's definitely helpful in that kind of aspect as well.
There's a lot of different applications for it. Depending on who you are, you'll probably find a use for it. So that'll be it for the interview. Thank you for stopping by and providing your input on the different questions. Definitely appreciate it. I love hearing everyone's different like answers to all the different questions and their different perspectives. And I'm sure since I'm uploading these, it'll be like gradual upload of individual videos. But I'm sure like people will find the different perspectives valuable in regards like to these subjects in relation to VR. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in. Yeah, no problem. I'm actually interested in everyone else's responses.
Oh yeah,
so I'll be keeping an eye out.
A lot of good interviews so far. It's been good so far. If you like this video project and would like to reach out for an interview yourself, feel free to contact me here on the various social platforms that I'm on, and I'll be happy to set one up. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate it.